Good morning, everybody. I'm coming to you from downtown Nicosia, Cyprus, and it's around 9 o'clock in the morning on this Saturday, and I thought we would do a video and talk about the news. I'm going to grab an early morning coffee and a spinach pie, and as I'm walking over to the coffee shop, let me cross the street here. I don't recommend anyone to cross the street the way I'm crossing the streets. I'm going like over the median and in the middle of the traffic, but I'm just trying to take a shortcut. It's common in Cyprus. A lot of people do that. But yeah, let's get to the news. Let's get to the news on this Saturday morning, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about. And the first big story that I want to discuss is this Washington Post article. I'm going to pull out my phone here because there is a quote that I want to reference, a short quote from this article. So the Washington Post is claiming that the Russian embassy in the U.S., in D.C., sent a note to the State Department, and they told the State Department to pretty much stop sending weapons to Ukraine. And this is what they said. This is according to the Washington Post. They said that the Western campaign to pour weapons into Ukraine was adding fuel to the conflict and could lead to, and I quote, unpredictable consequences. This note was sent on Tuesday. It was a diplomatic note sent on Tuesday to the State Department. And this follows the announcement that I reported on yesterday. I think it was yesterday that I reported on it. The announcement that the Biden White House was sending another $800 million in weapons to Ukraine. I think they've sent a total of like $2.5 billion in weapons that we know of. That is what we know of. So, yeah, Russia's sending, I think Russia's giving one final warning before things really escalate. And the U.S. has ignored it. Obviously, I think that was expected. But, well, let me tell you what the U.S. said, because I also have this quote from Ned Price. Ned Price at the State Department. And let me find it here. Yeah. So Ned Price went to CNN after this story broke from the Washington Post. And Ned Price went on CNN, and he told CNN that the U.S. will continue to pour weapons into Ukraine, despite this warning of unpredictable consequences. I thought that was an interesting quote, unpredictable consequences. I've been saying for a while now, these weapons, some are getting through. I think a lot of small stuff is getting through. The big stuff, I don't see how they're going to get through, how they're going to reach the Donbass. That I don't understand how they're going to get into the east of Ukraine. But they're still trying to pour them into the country. And I'm talking about tanks and all kinds of artillery, heavy weapons, stuff like this. I'm sure the Russians are going to annihilate these types of weapons before they can even get remotely close to the fighting in the east. But a lot of the small stuff is going to get through. Either way, I've said that a lot of these weapons are going to make their way on the black market. They're going to make their way into the hands of terrorist groups in Europe, NAZI guys in Europe, perhaps, jihadists in the Middle East, maybe. But in the next 2, 3, 4 years, things are not going to be good for the region, and we're going to have a lot of chaos. And when people are going to be asking, why did this happen, or why did this attack happen in downtown, and I'm just going to pick a city at random, like Paris or London or something like that. I'm just picking a city at random. That's it. I'm saying when something like this happens in like a year or 2 or 3, and everyone's like, how did this happen, or why did this attack occur? Just remember, all of this is because the U.S. and the EU decided to flood the region with weapons, and a lot of people are going to make a lot of money on the black market because of this. I mean, I've gotten reports, a lot of reports, that Ukraine generals are just cleaning house with these weapons on the black market. I mean, they're selling them at like pennies on the dollar, but they're just making bank by taking these weapons that are flooding into Poland pretty much, and just selling them on the black market. It's just a bad situation. Of course, Russia is saying this from the standpoint not only of the fact that it's going to destabilize Europe, but obviously they don't want weapons into Ukraine, because Russia's goal is to try to win this conflict as quickly as possible, while the U.S.'s goal is, and the EU, the collective West, is a prolonged insurgency. We know that those are the goals of the collective West. Anyway, Ned Price also said this when he was talking to CNN. He said that the Russians have said, and I quote, "The Russians have said some things privately. They have said some things publicly. Nothing will dissuade us from the strategy that we've embarked on. Nothing will dissuade us from the strategy that we've embarked on." He said that if the Kremlin is concerned that the Biden administration is providing billions of dollars worth of security assistance to our Ukrainian partners, then we're guilty as charged. Kind of tongue-in-cheek from Ned Price. We're guilty as charged. Listen to that statement. Nothing will dissuade us, and we're guilty as charged. Oh, boy. Yesterday, we did a live stream on the Duran with Alexander, and we talked about how everything's escalating with regards to China as well. The rhetoric is really ramping up between the U.S. and China. You have the Solomon Islands. You have a very tense situation building around Taiwan. You had a lot of U.S. government officials and representatives actually going to Taiwan. Nancy Pelosi was slated to visit Taiwan, and then she suddenly got the coof. Coincidence? I don't think so, but she got the coof after Taiwan sent some pretty big warnings with regards to Pelosi visiting. And you have this massive escalation in Europe. Things are not looking good. You also have a lot of diplomats being expelled on both sides. Russia expelled 18 EU diplomats yesterday from Russian territory. They are now persona non grata. And this was a retaliation to the European Union expelling 19 Russian diplomats and labeling them persona non grata. When you get to a point where each side is expelling diplomats, and you've whittled it down to a skeleton crew in the embassy, like five people working in the embassy in the given country, what you have then is you have a diplomatic breakdown. And when you have a diplomatic breakdown, you're one step away from cutting off diplomatic relations, because it's just not practical to have a representative office in that country anymore. I mean, you get down to like the ambassador and say 2 more people in the staff at an embassy, manning the embassy. You're one step away from just announcing a break in diplomatic relations. Paris breaks off diplomatic relations with Russia. The ambassador has to leave, or vice versa. Russia breaks off diplomatic relations with London, and the British ambassador has to leave. Once you have this diplomatic breakdown, and you don't even have embassies and representation in the given countries, you're one step away from a declaration of war. And that's where I think we are heading. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, but and a lot can change before we get to that point. A lot can change. I mean, you just don't know. In a good way, in a bad way, and in a good way. You could have a lot of things that you don't expect happen to change the trajectory of things. But if we continue to expel diplomats in this way, if we continue to pour weapons into Ukraine, and as Ned Price says, guilty as charged. We're guilty as charged, and nothing's going to dissuade us from pouring in more weapons. You have the situation in China with regards to Taiwan. I mean, we see where all of this is heading. Germany has announced, Olaf Scholz has announced that they are going to be spending $2.5 billion to purchase weapons to then give to Ukraine. So Germany, one of the first things they did in right before the conflict, remember when Olaf Scholz went to Moscow to meet with Putin like 2-3 days before the special military operation kicked off. Germany announced that it would be spending 100 billion on defense. It was a huge deal, right? Germany is going to basically militarize in a big way, and Olaf Scholz has had a lot of pressure recently to send German weapons to Ukraine, but he's resisted so far. So what's the workaround that Scholz has come up with? He said that out of that 100 billion, he's going to allocate 2.5 billion of that money to purchase weapons instead of going into Germany's stockpile of weapons or trying to or sending weapons that Germany already has. What he is saying is he's going to spend 2.5 billion from the budget to purchase weapons to then give to Ukraine. How's that for a workaround? What else do we have? We have another false flag warning, which I think we should discuss, and it has to do with a town in, and it's very much similar to the Kramatorsk false flag warning, but it's in a town called, and I have to find the town, Lovokovsky, something like that. This is coming from the Lieutenant General of the Russian Ministry of Defense, Mikhail Mizentsev, the head of the National Defense Management. He says that the Kiev regime is preparing another monstrous provocation similar to the one carried out in Kramatorsk to accuse Russian servicemen of war crimes with the massacre of civilians. So according to Mizentsev, the 19th Missile Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine intends in the near future to fire a Tochka U tactical ballistic missile at the accumulation of refugees at a railway station in Lozovaya. Lozovaya is the town that they're saying a false flag is going to take place, which is a city in the Kharkov region, not Kiev, in the Kharkov region, and a major rail junction. So if something happens in Lozovaya, in Kharkov, in and around Kharkov, the Russian Ministry of Defense is warning that this is a false flag. Of course, they have noted that they do not use Tochka U missiles, so that's the first giveaway that it was Ukraine. He's saying that Ukraine is going to launch this missile in a town, a village that they control, but a village that is very, very close to the contact line, so as to make it look like it was fired from Russian-controlled territory. So they're going to fire this. According to the this is according to the Russian Ministry of Defense. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I don't know. But this is the warning that they're giving, that they're going to fire this Tochka U from a village which is very, very close, controlled by Kiev, but very close to territory controlled by the Donbas militia, so as to muddy the waters a bit. Talking about muddying the waters, this is an interesting story. I don't know if this should be filed under Clown World, but, well, let me get to this story. The House of Cards showrunner, one of the guys that put together House of Cards, I don't know if you guys remember it, with Kevin Spacey, where he's a senator that becomes then president of the United States, or he was vice president and then works his way to president. Anyway, something like that. Frank, forgot what was his name. Frank something was his character. Anyway, it was with Kevin Spacey, and had a really good first season, but the second and third season kind of really sucked. But the first season was really good. Anyway, the guy that started this show, one of the showrunners, his name is Bo Williman, is traveling to this village outside Kiev. You guys know the village I'm talking about. He's going to be traveling there to document, this is coming from Fox News, by the way, to document the atrocities of the Russian invasion and capture the heroic resistance of the Ukrainian people. The village in Kiev City Council, the BUCHA City Council, announced on Friday. So the City Council in this village outside of Kiev, where this atrocity, what some people call an atrocity, what other people call a false flag, this village in Kiev, their City Council announced that this Hollywood guy, Bo Williman, who's a playwright, I'm looking at his bio here, who's a playwright and was a showrunner for the House of Cards, as well as other shows for Hulu, a show called The First, which was on Hulu as well. This guy is coming to create a show about what happened in this village. The playwright wants to tell the whole world, once again, this is a quote from Fox News, the playwright wants to tell the whole world the truth about the genocide of Ukrainians and the heroic resistance of the Ukrainian people. This is according to the city council of this village outside Kiev, the city council of BUCHA. Yeah. So that's an interesting story. That's going to be an interesting show from this House of Cards guy. And finally, the last story I want to talk about is, since we're talking about shows and actors, is Elensky, the comedian clown puppet leader of Ukraine who wears high heels. He was on CNN, of course. He reminds me of like Michael Avenatti. He's like an international version of Michael Avenatti, isn't he? He's on CNN more than Avenatti was. He was on CNN, and he's also warning that Russia's going to be using a nuclear weapon. Speaking to CNN, he made this remark to CNN after William Burns said that Russia's going to be using a nuclear weapon. The CIA director, William Burns, I believe he was speaking at the University of Georgia or Georgia Tech. And William Burns said that he's worried that Russia's going to be using a nuclear weapon soon because Russia is losing so badly in Ukraine. This is what Burns was saying. Russia is losing so badly in Ukraine, and the defeat is so terrible for the Russian military and for Putin that they're going to have no other option but to use a nuclear weapon in order to save face. And Zelensky is echoing that. So the clown puppet comedian is echoing a statement made by the CIA. Interesting that he is parroting a CIA talking point. One would say that maybe he is being puppeteered by the CIA. Anyway, what did Zelensky say here? He, when he was asked, one second, let me find. Zelensky speaking to CNN made the remark a day after CIA Director William Burns said, given, and there's a quote, given the potential desperation of President Putin and the Russian leadership, given the setbacks that they've faced so far militarily, none of us can take lightly the threat posed by a potential resort to tactical nuclear weapons or low-yield nuclear weapons. Zelensky told CNN when asked for his reaction to Burns' comments, quote, "We should think not to be afraid, but be ready." He said, "Not only me, but all of the world, all of the countries have to be worried because it can be not real information, but it can be truth." That comes from the clown puppet leader of Ukraine parroting a talking point from the CIA. So yeah, Hollywood is taking over this military operation, no doubt about it. But you know, as I've said, if there's one thing that the West is winning, it is the soft power war. That's for sure, and they're doubling and tripling down on it. Anyway, that's the update, everybody. I am at my destination here in downtown Nicosia. It's a coffee place called Coffee House downtown. If you want a really good spinach pie, this is the place to come. They make a good coffee too, and they're nice people as well. They're not paying me to say this. That's what I want to say. They're not paying me to say this, even though they should. But no, they're not paying me to say this. I just like this place. It has really good internet too, by the way. So let me jump in here. I never film indoors because filming indoors, they play music, and then the algorithms in YouTube get you. So if you dare enter in there and the music catches you, then the algos are gonna strike you down, your video. Anyway, go to Alexander's channel. Go to the Duran, the main channel. We had a really good live stream. And I think I will leave it there, the duran.locals.com. And here you can see a Costa Rica terrazzo. I don't even know I have no idea what that is. I'm just gonna get a regular black coffee, an Americano, just straight, no sugar, no nothing. All right, guys, take care.